My name is Samuel Harris. I'm 27 years old and I'm a full-time worker. I'm employed at a factory for a major outdoor product manufacturing company. I landed this job when I was around 19. At first, it was just a part-time gig. One day, the plant manager approached me and asked, "How about becoming a full-time employee? My educational background and job history are somewhat different. I finished middle school and that's about it." Well, I did attend high school for a couple of years, but never ended up graduating. It's not like studying was boring or anything like that. For me, school itself was too dull. Luckily, my parents are quite unconventional. They just laughed about it when I skipped high school to get lost in the mountains and became obsessed with caving. Eventually, I'd saved up some cash from my part-time job and started staying near the mountains to challenge myself against the rocks. I love mountain climbing, of course, but what was really intriguing for me was rock climbing. Even now, when I save up enough money from work, I take a long vacation and go climbing abroad. You could say I work to fund that. Your work is meticulous. It really helps us out. The plant manager takes a good care of me, always checking in on me. I truly appreciate how warmly he welcomed me, a mid-career recruit with only a middle school education. Boss, if you keep praising him like that, he might get a swelled head. There was a teasing voice that I haven't heard in a while. Even in the same work clothes we wear in the factory, her charm is undeniable. Valerie Peterson is in charge of maintenance at the head office. She probably came from the headquarters to check a system that's been having issues since last night. Her long black hair is perfectly straight, and her skin is as smooth as porcelain. She has 2 cute beauty marks on her left eye. From the first time I met her, I was smitten with her. "What, if you were here, you should have shown your face sooner," I retort, a little too happily. "I didn't come here to see you, Samuel." She sticks out her tongue as she playfully teases me. But I have learned by now. She just appears innocent. I mean, I'm probably the only one who likes coming over to such a remote place so quickly. "Plant manager, you gotta handle the systems more carefully," she chides. Her sharp tongue is famous both within the company and at the factory. She's undeniably beautiful, but has a sharp tongue and has an oddball personality. The guys at the factory seem to be hesitant about interacting with her. "You staying over tonight? Got a spot right next to me if you want," I say, another one of our usual playful exchanges. It's a well-known fact in the factory that I'm head over heels for her. Every time I see her face, I can't help but try to woo her. But she's always so deft at deflecting my advances. There were times when my spirit nearly broke, but well, I've decided to take my time to win her over. "Plant manager, looks like Samuel wants to share the covers with you," sidestepped my words as usual. Valerie chuckled away. After that, Valerie told the plant manager that she had some important matters to discuss and disappeared into the office. From the window, the plant manager looked ecstatic. Something good must have happened. I get transferred to the headquarters. After work, the plant manager called me in and told me I was being promoted to the headquarters. This meant a step up in my career. Seems like Valerie was the one who brought in the official orders. "You're young and know what you're doing. You'll be competent at the headquarters too. Why don't you aim higher?" the plant manager passionately said to me. I was a bit thrown off by this sudden event. It's an order from the company and probably non-negotiable, but I'm really fond of this place. First of all, the headquarters are in the middle of the city. There's no trace of the mountains and rocky landscapes that are the bedrock of my lifestyle. I seriously wondered if this might be the time to leave the company. According to the plant manager, it seems he was the one who recommended me for this position. I believe it was out of sheer goodwill. The orders have been issued. There is no room for you to say no at this point. There's some employee housing options available at the headquarters. You can choose a place to live from the list. Valerie said, handing over the information about the housing. I took, standing with an empty mind. I get what you might be probably thinking, Samuel, but running away without giving it a shot, that's what we'd call being a chicken, she said. Her words steeled my resolve. Running away was different from making a choice for myself. Running away, watch me, I'll give my all in, I retorted. If one were to say it was a tit-for-tat response, they'd be right. And just like so, I was transferred from the familiar factory nestled in the mountains to the bustling headquarters in the big city. Once my transfer to the headquarters was finalized, I was swamped with handing over my duties and preparing for the move, but I finally managed to settle in. Looking up at the headquarters building, my mouth fell open at its sheer size. The amount of people going in and out was dizzying. On top of that, the building was apparently smoke-free. Lately, I've been feeling the squeeze as a smoker. The first thing I did at the headquarters building was to look for a place to smoke. I showed my ID card to the reception, confirmed my department, and asked about the location of a smoking area. There was still some time before work started. I decided to head for the smoking area to have a cigarette. Of course, he's here right away. The slender, long cigarette suits her delicate fingers. I'm not sure if she ambushed me or if it's a part of her daily routine, but seeing her first thing in the morning feels like a good omen. Morning, can I borrow a lighter? As soon as I put the cigarette in my mouth, she lit it up for me. She's using a DuPont lighter. I gifted it to her on her birthday. It has some scratches. Maybe she's rough in handling it. When I suggested that she change to a new one, she told me she liked it with these scratches. Without uttering a word, we both smoke in the small smoking area. We don't need to seek out conversation each time. Being with her just feels right. What's this? The moment I finished one cigarette and put a second one in my mouth, I took another look at her. Usually, when we meet at the factory, she's in work clothes, but this morning, she was in a black suit with high heels. There's a slit in her long skirt. This is the first time I've seen her like this, and once I start noticing it, my heart won't stop racing. I pushed the cigarette I was holding into the ashtray without smoking it. What a waste. You're not going to smoke it. Looking at my suspicious behavior, she raised an eyebrow in puzzlement. Then she smiled with a soft expression I'd never seen before. You're always so laid back, no need to be nervous. She seemed to have misunderstood my suspicious behavior as being nerves on my first day of work. To be honest, the first day at HQ is no big deal, and I'm not nervous at all. I wanted her to be aware that it's her that's making me nervous and acting strange. Oh, by the way, your female supervisor is a real piece of work. Be prepared. That's what she said as we left the narrow entrance of the smoking area shoulder to shoulder. And I would soon come to understand the meaning of her words. My department is located on the floor below hers. The building is huge. Seeing her face regularly is unlikely. As I head to my assigned area, I can feel a troubling atmosphere at the staircase in the hallway, and for a moment, I thought about turning right around and going home. But I remember the encouragement I received from Valerie and opened the door to the floor. Why is it taking you so long to do such a simple task? Your overtime pay isn't your pocket money. As soon as I open the door, a shrill voice hits my eardrums. In a high, sharp voice, this woman is yelling at a male employee in front of her. Apparently, she is the boss Valerie was talking about. Despite her petite size, she's full of force. The supposedly big male employee is getting smaller and smaller. If you can't do it, just say so. If you're incapable, that's just how it is. I don't want to hear "I'll try harder now." Every time the male employee says a word, she keeps yelling like a machine gun. I found myself oddly impressed at how she could spew out such belittling words. Really, with a high school dropout starting from today, no matter how hard I try, I'm just being held back. Is the plan to dump a dropout on me and ruin my career? It seems like I'm the target of her wrath. The male employee getting yelled at must be just a victim of her displaced anger. I feel bad for him. Nice to meet you. I'm starting here from today. My name is Samuel Harris. I'm a high school dropout. Raising my hand, I let out my first greeting in a voice loud enough to echo around the floor. The floor went silent for a moment. The woman who had been shouting was taken aback and seemed at a loss for words. Looking forward to working with you. As I bowed my head toward the female supervisor, she seemed to snap back to reality. The rest of the morning meeting was as tense as walking on eggshells. When the woman introduced me to other employee, she emphasized that I was a high school dropout, worked in a factory, and a mid-career hire. The way she spoke made it seem like those attributes defined my worth. To be honest, it was a gut punch to listen to. I can't see anything but you tarnishing the company's reputation, but do your best. The woman, looking down on me with a condescending tone, was named Jennifer Stevens. Being a department head at 38 is quite an accomplishment. She seemed to be ambitious and mentioned her career every other sentence. I may be a high school dropout, but I'm competent enough, so don't worry. I just smile and let her know that I'm used to being looked down upon for only having a high school education. Jennifer glares at me, who is maintaining a calm exterior. It seems she doesn't quite like my attitude. Don't you think you're taking this job too lightly? It's terrifying to entrust work to someone with such a low level of education. Don't you all agree? It's like being in an elementary school homeroom. However, there are only a few employees who agree with Jennifer, and everyone seems to put a smile on their face forcefully. Jennifer grits her teeth in frustration at the reaction. You're a beautiful woman. I wish you'd show us your smile. I haven't seen you smile today, Jennifer, I said nonchalantly. This remark set her off. Don't ridicule me. That was the closing remark at the morning meeting. Working at the headquarters is a world away from the work I did at the factory, which has left me somewhat bewildered at times. Thankfully, my colleagues are all good people. They are always willing to take the time to answer my questions. It seems my first day's morning meeting went quite well. My supervisor Jennifer, on the other hand, gives me a hard time daily, which doesn't go unnoticed by the others. A majority of them seem to sympathize with me. The reason is rather straightforward. I've always been a meticulous worker, and there's nothing to criticize about my work performance. Most of the gripes Jennifer has with me are about my level of education. My colleagues are slowly growing tired of this baseless harassment. You miss the mountains, don't you? She blew out a puff of purple smoke at the smoking area and asked me that question. I gave a curt reply, yeah, kinda. I've made a habit of running into Valerie here in the mornings and at noon. I've asked her for lunch before, but she declined, said she doesn't like to eat with others. So, I've never had meals or drinks with her. I'll make sure not to look while you're eating. So how about we go for drinks? She let out a small sigh at this and said, I can't, I get aroused watching people eat. That whisper in my ear sent chills down my spine. She ended with a long puff of breath and laughed a bit. She was clearly making fun of me. Oh, by the way, the new part-timer will be assigned to your team in the afternoon. Be nice to him. Her network of information is incredibly detailed and extensive. She explained to me that she moved between different departments for maintenance, and that's why she knew so much. That made her an inside informant, apparently. As Valerie had informed me, when I returned to my floor, I saw the new part-timer. He was still young. In front of him was Jennifer, with a sullen face. Under the pressure of Jennifer's pressure, the part-timer was looking down. So after the middle school graduate, now a high school graduate, are you trying to ruin our department? How come you had the audacity to apply for our part-time job? Aren't you ashamed of your education? She was throwing sharp words at someone who had just finished high school. She is said to have graduated from Harvard University. I think that's truly a prestigious education. However, I'm fed up with her attitude of looking down on all her colleagues because of it. Come on, try saying something. I wonder if your vocabulary is limited because you're only a high school graduate. How pathetic. I noticed the part-timer's body shaking a little from the sudden baptism into society. I couldn't keep my cool after noticing that. By the time I realized it, I had stepped between him and Jennifer, glaring at her. Jennifer seemed a bit shaken by the fact that I was glaring at her, who usually just puts a smile on my face. Is educational background really that important? Did this young man, stepping into a workplace for the first time, cause you any inconvenience? Isn't it our job as seniors in society to welcome and educate him warmly? The floor fell silent at my unexpected attitude. Jennifer, who was being glared at, bit her lip. She must be aware that she's being unreasonable. She knows, but she can't help but saying it. Can't believe a middle school graduate has the nerve to stand up to his manager. You're not aware of your place. The nerve. How about you, Jennifer? Why don't you realize that the atmosphere in this department is getting worse because of you? We both glare at each other, neither of us willing to back down. A middle school graduate defending a high school graduate. Well, I guess birds of a feather flock together. It's unsightly. Jennifer said mockingly. She doesn't seem to have any intention of reflecting at all. You know, laughing at people solely based on their education is really the pits. Have a good look at your own face right now. It's so hideous it's laughable. My remark made her explode in anger. The stress and frustration she had been suppressing seemed to erupt all at once. Much to my surprise, she started hurling abuses at me at a pace that was near impossible to comprehend. I'll have you removed from this department. Just you watch. With these words left hanging in the air, she stormed off towards the director's office. She's probably planning to tattle on me to the directors. I could hear Jennifer's voice from the director's office, screaming, "He is unfit to be our employee." The part-timer looked utterly terrified. I patted him on the shoulder and said, "There won't be many more instances like this, so just consider it as building your immunity." At my words, the part-timer gave a small nod, his expression a mix of laughter and tears. Due to Jennifer's report, the whole department became the subject of inquiry for the human resources and the director. Everyone had to face individual meetings with the director and the HR representative. As the one who caused the commotion, I had the meeting for about an hour. I had nothing to hide, so I told them everything honestly. I even admitted that I had disrespected Jennifer to some extent in the dispute. I might not be needed at the headquarters. If I could be sent back to the factory, I wanted to at least make sure I said this at the end, to clearly convey my intentions. The director gave no response to my words. The final decision was astounding. The one branded as unfit for the company was not me, but Jennifer. Jennifer, coming out of the director's office, looked utterly exhausted. Clutching her transfer notice, she staggered back to her desk, looking as if she might collapse at any moment. Silently, she packed her personal belongings into a box and left the department without a word. Jennifer's new post was at the remote factory where I had been. It was clearly a demotion. A few months later, I paid a visit to that factory for the first time in a while. I accompanied Valerie, who was going for maintenance. While it was work for Valerie, I used some of my paid vacation for a day off. I was excited about the plan to camp with Valerie that night, who had recently taken up solo camping. How could I not be thrilled? I greeted the factory manager, presenting him with a small gift. "You've really grown," he said. His eyes seemed a bit moist, and I was taken aback. Maybe he felt like his son had come home. "How much time are you wasting on this? You plan on making your pocket money with overtime, just like a parasite." The usual voice echoed from inside the office. It was Jennifer's angry yell. It seemed she hadn't shown any signs of reflection even after several months. She's busy every day, yelling at the part-time workers and making fun of the staff. She often laments being in this place, saying, "I, who graduated from Harvard University, with that attitude, she stands out in the workplace for all the wrong reasons." Several months have passed and it seems she hasn't made any close friends among the staff. I don't think she's a bad person at heart. The factory manager scratched his head in dismay. Valerie, unfazed by Jennifer's shouting, flung open the office door. The door suddenly opened, and Jennifer turned to look at us astonishedly. She saw me standing behind Valerie, and her face twisted into a demonic expression. I thought to myself, she looks even more haggard than before. Valerie said, "Jennifer, from this moment, you are to use up your paid leave. This is an order from HR." Quickly filling out a vacation request for Jennifer and handing it to the plant manager, she went, "There you go," asking for his approval. "Wait a minute, don't just decide things for me." She reaches out to take back the request, but she can't due to the height difference between her and Valerie. Then, Valerie takes Jennifer's arm. "We're going camping now. You must be excited." She said it with a smile. She then escorts Jennifer, who has a confused expression, out of the office and pushes her into my car. I'm not going for camping. I took Jennifer's outcry as a sign to start and pressed down on the accelerator. "Cheer up, Jennifer," as the sound of the firewood popping in the bonfire echoed. We were sitting around the fire. Jennifer, who was forcibly brought here, is sitting with a stern expression in her work clothes. Valerie is engrossed in turning the seafood agillo I made into a cream pasta. "What do you know? I have my own pride," she stated. It's strange how sitting around a fire at night makes true feelings spill out occasionally. I thought I felt a release of tension from Jennifer's shoulders. "You guys always tell us women, don't you, because you're a woman, or despite being a woman, so I'll say it too. I've been fighting with my only weapon, my educational background. Do you understand how difficult it is to survive in this patriarchal society?" Jennifer's voice, slowly sharing her thought, sounded weaker than I've ever heard before. In the silence between her confessions, the sound of Valerie slurping her pasta could be heard. "Valerie, stop slurping your pasta, chew." In response to my words, Valerie slurped her pasta even louder. Jennifer, watching us, chuckles quietly. "It seems Valerie hasn't thought about that sort of thing at all," she says. "Men who talk like that usually shut up when they are put in their place with real ability," she said, flashing a dangerously mischievous grin. "Jennifer, even without your education, you are still Jennifer. You don't need to belittle others to prove yourself. You can rise on your own, right? Once you're out in the real world, I don't think your education matters that much, but that doesn't mean I disregard your education." I carefully chose my words, trying to convey my thoughts to Jennifer as clearly as possible. I didn't want her to misunderstand my intentions in any way. "Yes, you're right," she admitted. "I might have been trying too hard." She suddenly laughed, and I thought she was beautiful. Did Valerie notice me captivated by Jennifer for a moment? She slurped her pasta with great gusto. The next morning, I was rock climbing after a long time. It didn't take long to get back the feel for free climbing. Valerie and Jennifer are looking up at me from the base of the boulder. "He has been sold already." Suddenly, Valerie's voice echoes in the quiet mountains. Wondering what's going on, I asked Jennifer in secret after climbing down. Oh, I asked Valerie if she was your girlfriend. She smiled and said, he's been sold out. Jennifer says with a laugh, I was fond of you too. What a shame. I'm behaving oddly with the sudden popularity. I'll keep trying my best until I hear the words directly from Valerie. I bowed my head and declared that to Jennifer. She laughed and said, I guess I've been rejected.